Camille Paul Sunil Bunsee. Virginia Bunsee, that's my mom's name, and Deeraj Bunsee, my father. Both deceased though. My older brother, Kishan Bunsee, better known as Kelly, so we call him Kelly. I'm the second, and then my first sister, Paula Bunsee, and the last of the four, Elizabeth Bunsee. Everybody calls her Liz. So my father, he was a Hindu when he was alive. My mother, she was Catholic, but then she got saved and she became a child of God. So we grew up both as children, participating in the Hindu prayers, and then we would go to Catholic church. And that was for the most part as a child until I got saved. That would be the earliest memories of the Nazarene church. Interestingly, was me hiding from the then senior pastor of the El Socorro Church in Nazarene, Reverend Dr. Ruth O Saxon. She would come visiting in the community, and when we heard her on the outside, we would hide from her. Primary school, El Socorro South government school, and secondary school, well, actually I went to St. Joseph's College after primary school, but then in Form 3, I had to leave. My father couldn't pay the fees, so I went to Curep Junior Sec, now called St. Joseph Secondary. And then from there I went to Form 4 and Form 5, St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive. Under Reverend Dr. Ruth O Saxon at the El Socorro Church of the Nazarene, and that was in 1991 I got saved. Okay, so over time, not too long after I got saved, I became NYI president. I also taught the adults Sunday school class and the teens Sunday school class. I served as, back then, the Nazarene Mission International was Nazarene World Mission in NWMS Mission Society. Yeah. So I served as the study chairperson. I was also at one point, prior to the NY president, I served as NY vice president. I was also church treasurer for some time, church secretary. I also served as part of, I think it was the stewards. I kind of like almost everything for a while before becoming pastor. So it came in, the call to ministry came in 1992. But I didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't want to say yes. My pastor sensed that God had called me, and my pastor asked me about it. I'm ashamed to say, but it's the truth, I lied, and I said no. But after running from God for a year, my pastor came again and asked me a year after, and I realized that I had to be true. So I said yes. But I started Bible school, so that was in 92. 93, I accepted the call. And in 95, August, God made a way, and I attended Caribbean Nazarene, back then Caribbean Nazarene Theological College. And yeah, that's where I started my studies. District in NYI. Well, let me start with the NMI first. At one point, I can't remember which year, but that was quite a number of years ago, over 15 years ago, I was elected to serve I honestly can't remember because election was an appointment, but I did serve at the district level in the district NMI council for probably 2 years. And in youth missions, I represented the youth arm of the NMI. That was an awesome experience under the leadership of Reverend Donami Ali. And it was, so I decided to, step aside after my time was over, because District NYI Ministries was something that, so to speak, was calling for my services. For many years I served as, North Zone Vice President in the first instance, and then North Zone President for some years. As Vice President for probably 1 or 2 years, and then North Zone President for probably about, this is memory here, all right? No, I have it recorded somewhere. Probably about 4 or 5 years, and then, or could be 6 years actually. And then I served as District NY President for 6 years. And then I served as, while I was serving as District NY President, I also was appointed Caribbean Field NYI Coordinator. And then I stepped aside as District NY President, and I continued to serve for maybe about a year or two as Caribbean Field Youth Coordinator, but altogether 6 years again, and 6 years and a few months there. So really NYI Ministries has been, like, as soon as I got saved, less than a year, I became president. And so NYI is me. I am NYI. I love NYI. Too many to recall, but off the top of my head, I would have had the opportunity to lead as District NY President, to initiate a new start in Maracas, Royal Road. It is yet to reach to that place, as we understand New Start, but for some time I would have done some work there. Also, I got opportunities to be involved in missions in different islands in the Caribbean, Jamaica, for example. There's also Nicaragua. I was privileged to carry a few young people from Trinidad to join others in different parts of the region, and God helped us to plant 3 churches, 2 of which still exist, and I stand to be corrected because it's been some time since I actually followed up. In Nicaragua, we would have spent, I think it was 2 weeks. Yeah, that was some years ago, probably about 7 years ago. And so those was more organized mission initiatives. There was also one in Antigua, I believe. I can't recall which year. But yeah, those are some that just come to my mind. Okay, so my first was in Sangre Grande Church of the Nazarene, and that would have been in 1997. For 5 years I served there. And then I would have served as assistant pastor on contract, actually. It's an initiative that I took. So at Dow Village Church of the Nazarene, now Victory Chapel, Dow Village, Church of the Nazarene, Victory Chapel, I stayed there for a year. I requested to serve for a year. And at the end of my time, I was asked by the pastor and the church board to stay on for another year. But I didn't feel like that was part of God's leading, so I made a compromise and I said, okay, I'll stay for half that. And they said, okay, no problem. And then at that point in time, St. James had called me. It was St. James, their second attempt in a couple of years to have me. First time I didn't feel it was God's lead, and I said thanks, but I don't feel God leading. The second time they did call, I went and I served there as assistant and youth pastor for 11 years and a month or something. So yeah, and that was another beautiful experience before I came here at Grande at the end of this December 31st, so make it 3 years already. Yeah. So on paper, I would have started on January the 1st, and that would have been 21, 22, 23, yeah, 2021. And it has been quite an experience. When I look back, I have to say it had to be God. I say so because I came in the middle of the pandemic. And when I mean in the middle of the pandemic, the times when, although I was pastor, I didn't know most of the people here. I would come on a Sunday and I would go behind the pulpit to preach. And back then the law would have only allowed, I think it was 5 persons into the church building. So it was myself, it was one IT person, it was a worship leader, 3 persons, and sometimes we had 1 musician, 4. So I would be looking down at the congregation and I would only have 1 person looking back up at me. So so that's how I started. And for half the 3 years, it was more or less during the pandemic period. And when I look back now at the records and I see that God was able to, touch people, and most of the new members, so we have about 45 to date, 45, could be a little over 45 new members in let's say 3 years this December, right? That was like, how did that happen? And most of those persons, over 90% of those persons, are persons who got baptized and accepted membership. So when I looked at that, I'm like, okay, I don't even know how that happened. So it's a good thing. Yeah. Mentor, hey, you have enough time for that? Wow. Okay, so I believe that every Christian, every true child of God is a disciple. And essentially the heart of mentorship is discipleship. Although that might be debatable, and there are honestly some things that you would want to make distinctions between, a mentor versus a disciple. It's what I owe God to disciple others. But I will admit, if that's the word I want to use, that I have a personal passion for mentorship, and I know where it was built in. At least now, I didn't always know. And it has to do with the darkest period in my life when I was 16 to 19 years old. And long story short, it was when my father left. He abandoned us, and I had to become a man, an adult, at 16, when I really deserved to be, and I wanted to be just a 16-year-old. Fast forward, at 19, I became suicidal because life was dark. And thankfully, I didn't get through taking my life. And so I got saved. I got saved at 19. And as I look back, so the years would have passed, and as I look back, I realized that one of the things that I really needed and I desired, but that I didn't know as much as I found out later, was a strong, responsible male role model and presence in my life. And so it is from that place that I decided over time that I will give to other young men what I needed when I was that age. And so every time I'm able to empower and to facilitate young men, they don't necessarily have to be in dark places, but that just me being able to empower and facilitate, part of me feels like I can look back now at my past and I can say, take that. You know, I win. I have conquered. So yeah, my giving back is also, in mentorship, is also my way of expressing my gratitude to God for His goodness to me. Well, Nazarene Missions, my first pastor who I got saved under, she was not just a child of God, not just a Nazarene, but she was a missionary. She was a missionary. And so when I think about the Nazarene missions and so forth, it was through missions that I got saved. It was through that Nazarene missionary that I hid from. I remember one time my sister, my younger sister Liz, who started to go to the church in El Socorro, and my pastor wanted to come home with some people to have a service, and I didn't want to be there, so I asked as though I was interested, what time and what day. So when they show up, I would disappear. You know, but you can't run from God. But yeah, so I appreciate Nazarene missions. It's the way that I came to know Christ.